Hi, good afternoon students and welcome to bio classes. In the previous class we discussed a very important concept related to the seed germination. We observed how the seed is going to germinate. So during the germination of the seed, which are the factors involved over there, and for the germination of the seed, before that one we observed the parts of the seeds in yesterday's class. And during that class I asked a question. The question, very simple question: who will produce the oxygen? Actually, plant, right? So plant has to produce the oxygen. That oxygen used by all the organisms along with the plants also, they will use their own oxygen. But thing is that here the seed is going to germinate and during the germination process, so it forms on just a small elongated structure, and that elongated structure will be creamish white. It is not green in color. That means if it is not green in color, means still it is not performing photosynthesis. There is no production of oxygen inside that plant. So ask the question that how that plant will get the oxygen, right? So for that question many students answered. So few of the students, I thought though their answer was near to the accuracy. For example, mention in the example Sahana, Bhavana, then Megha, Vinodini. So these students have written the answer near to the accuracy. So here if you want to get the answer for that question is that here the plants will get the oxygen, one thing, from the oxygen which is already present in the pores, that is in between the sand particles in the land. So they will get the oxygen. And one more thing, we are giving the water to the plant. We are watering the plant during the germination of the seed. When it is getting the plantation, at the time we are giving the water to the plant. We are applying water. In that water there is a dissolved oxygen, DO, dissolved oxygen. So that dissolved oxygen also helpful for the development of the plant. But thing is that atmospheric oxygen which is entering through the root, as well as the oxygen which is given through the water in the form of dissolved oxygen, both are temporary to a certain stage. And after a certain stage the plant has to get its own oxygen internally, that is by the photosynthesis process. Because of that reason, when the plant is growing, after certain growth, plant produces two small angle leaves, foliage leaves, and those leaves start photosynthesizing and then producing their own oxygen for their internal utility. That extra oxygen will go outside. That oxygen can be used by other organisms. So this is the thing. Yes. And one more thing, before entering today's concept, here is one interesting question asked by Sahana Auti. She asked one very interesting concept. Actually I thought a lot of times on that question. So here is an interesting question. Let's see the question first and have the discussion on that one. See the question.
Hi, here my question is, do blind people dream in visual images? Thank you.
Yes, thank you Sahana. What is Sahana's question here? See how beautiful question it is. Blind people or blind person, by birth he is blind, right? By birth he is blind. Then whether he will dream or not, whether he dreams or not. Suppose if he is dreaming, means in his dream what he will observe, what he will imagine, what he will see in his dream. Why? Because first of all he is blind, by birth he is blind. Then whether it is possible or not, that is her question. Yes, here imagine, blindness means I will consider in two ways. One is by birth blind, another one is blind because of some infection or because of some accidents. That means earlier they were having the vision, right now they are blind. So this kind of two categories let me make. So here, if the person is blind, right now he is blind, but earlier days he was having the vision, he was having the good eyesight. So that person right now he is blind because of some accident or infection, eye infection. But that person, he will dream, and in the dream he will see the visions, visual dream. He will be having visual dream. Why? Because earlier he has seen many things in the atmosphere. On that basis he can imagine in his dream. But what about by birth blind person? So here, by birth a blind person also dreams. In his dreams he can see some visions. How is that possible? By birth he has not seen anything in the atmosphere. How is that possible? That is also a question. Imagine, for us only, if I consider, can we any time have we dreamt about the air, I am talking about air, atmospheric air. At any time we have dreamt, we have seen air in our dream? No. Why? Because in the normal vision, in the normal sight, in the normal our daily life, we can experience the air, we can feel the presence of air, but we can't see the air. Because of that reason, in our dream also we can't see the air, but air experience, air existence we can feel by the movement of the leaves, by movement of the any kind of materials. So we can feel that one, but exactly we can't see the air. Because of that reason, we can't imagine air in our dream also. So what I am telling is, what we have seen in our day life, that only we are getting in our dreams in the form of visions, in the form of imagines. So that is the thing. How that blind person can imagine all those things? So that is the question. So here, for that question, before going to that one, let me clear you. Vision, it is depending on 3 stages. What we are seeing, so 3 stages. One thing, we are observing a material, any material, that material light falling on our retina, right? And that retina is having photoreceptor cells, rod cells and cone cells. Those cells, those are converting the photo signals into electrical signals. So this is first stage. Those electrical signals are transferred by the optic nerves to the brain. So that is the second stage. In the brain, those electrical signals are converted into visionary forms. That means virtual image. So that process is done by our brain. That is a complicated process. So that is the third stage. Actually, what we are seeing right now, that is not actually felt by our eyeballs. That is actually felt by our brain. Brain will decide what object we are seeing right now. So that is actually brain work. That means in the brain, there is a particular portion. That particular portion is meant for vision. Something if get disturbed in that portion, then the person becomes blind. That is one case. Or something is there is defect in eyeball, then the person becomes blind. Or something defect in the optic nerve, that means the transmitting nerve, then the person becomes blind. So 3 stages there is a blindness occurring chances, right? Most of the times the person who is blind, by birth blind, he will be having something defect in his eyeballs, not in the brain portion. So what it indicates, in the brain portion, vision forming brain portion is still active, but thing is, from the eye no signals are going there, but still that portion is active. So on that basis, of course eyesight is not problem, but remaining 4 sensory organs are working properly. Nose working properly, tongue working properly, skin working properly, and hearing, that ear working properly. All the 4 sensory organs, they are giving the sensation to the brain properly. So mixing of all the sensations together inside the brain, a kind of imaginary structure will be built during the dream. But thing is, by birth blind person, in his dream, he will not dream about the visionary or visionary dreams. Most of the times he will dream about the smell, he will dream about the sensation of touch, he will dream about the hearing, sensation of hearing, he will dream about the sensation of taste. About these sensory organs effects he will dream in his condition, but he will not dream most of the times in the visionary form, that blind person. Yes, thank you Sahana for asking this question, very interesting question. You are also having, if you are having this kind of very interesting question, please make a video of 10 to 15 seconds and send me. So let's have the discussion in the tomorrow's class, right? Yes, coming to our concept. Yesterday we observed that seed germination. Today let me take another very interesting concept, that is flowering process. So in the plant, how the flowers will be arised, right? In the plant kingdom, we are having 5 divisions, actually 5 groups we are having: algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperm, angiosperm. We are having 5 categories. Out of 5 categories, algae, it is a very simplest plant, and angiosperm, it is a more complicated plant. So in that complexity, if you arrange, and out of 5 groups, the flowering plant is angiosperm, right? The plants which are bearing the flowers, all those are categorized as angiosperms. In angiosperms, how actually the flowers are going to be produced? So that is the thing. So imagine, let me imagine here, let me consider a small plant, and this is small plant. Now this is the small plant. Now the small plant is grown to some stage. Now it has attained maturity. Suppose if we attain maturity, means in our body gametes production will start, sperm production, egg production will start in human beings. In the same way, if the angiosperm plants attain maturity, means they start producing the flowers. Now the flower should be produced. From which portion of the plant the flower is going to be produced means, let me consider this is one stem, plant stem. Side region, it might be having the branches, it might be having the leaves. So different parts will be present. And here the main feature of the stem is that the presence of nodes and internodes, right? These are marks, we will refer them as nodes. And in the node region, there will be meristematic tissue. And what is the work of meristematic tissue? The cells are continuously dividing and forms any new part in the side region or in itself, in its own region only. So here these meristematic tissue present in the node region, when they start dividing, so they may form a leaf or they may form flower, not a fruit. Actually flower is converting into fruit after the fertilization. So they may be converting into flower or they may be converting into leaves. So from this side region, that means here is a meristematic tissue, right? Now imagine here is a meristematic tissue, and because of that meristematic tissue, small portion has been enlarged inside region. Now let me call it as a meristem. Now from this meristem, either leaf may be arised or flower may be arised. But thing is, depending on the type of hormone influencing inside, the type of product will come outside, either flower or leaf. Suppose if the leaf is coming from this meristem, means then we will call it as leaf primordium. This portion we will call it as leaf primordium. Suppose from this meristem, if the flower is coming outside, means we will call it as a floral primordium. Imagine this is the floral primordium, right? And now let me enlarge the same portion. The same portion I have enlarged here. This is the meristematic tissue. Right now here all the cells are active and dividing. Now this is also considered to be a branch of stem. This is the main stem, and the side, if it is growing, means it is a branch of the stem. So right now this is the branch of the stem. That means it is a part of the stem. What is the major feature of the stem? Presence of nodes and internodes, right? And here one important hormone will be present here. The hormone name is Floragen hormone. It is one imaginary hormone actually. Still now no one has isolated or no one has taken out the hormone from the meristematic part, but still we are imagining this hormone, Floragen hormone. This hormone present in the meristem, then the meristem will refer it as floral meristem. We will refer it as floral meristem, and from the floral meristem, so the flower parts are arising outside, right? So as already we know, the flower parts, majorly we will divide all the flower parts into 4 categories. petals, sepals, androecium and gynoecium. Already I think you have studied that one in your 10th class only. You have studied that one, parts of the flower: androecium, gynoecium, petals and sepals. So all the 4 parts, 4 categories, 4 divisions should be arise from this small portion, because the flow region is influencing that one. And here the work of flow region, it is depending on the presence of the amount of sunlight, to what extent the sunlight is present. So it is depending on the activation of this hormone, depending on the sunlight. That period we will call it as a photoperiodism. Photo means light, period means to what extent that light is falling on the plant. So depending on photoperiodism, the flow region activity will change. We will see, we will observe. Some of the plants will flower in the daytime, some of the plants will flower when the sunlight is sharp, some of the plants will flower during night time. Yes, Sanjay Mallige, when the sunlight, when it is going to sunset, at the time it is flowering. That means sunlight is influencing the flowering process. So the sunlight will activate this flow region hormone. So the flow region hormone present in the floral meristem helps in the formation of flower. Right now imagine in this portion, yes, we are having meristem, nodes, and thing is nodes are present in the restricted region. That means length of the stem branch is less, so here nodes are present very near together. And here from one node, imagine this portion we are just compressing. In that sense, if you imagine from this portion, these structures are coming outside. Yes, okay, sorry. From the lower node, here we are getting this kind of structure. From the next node, we are getting this kind of structure, and again from the next node, we are getting this kind of structure. And from this last node, the last node itself, it is going to enlarge in this way, and it becomes this kind of structure. Now all these parts together, they are going to form a bud. But actual thing is, these are the petals, these are the androecium parts, and this is the gynoecium parts, and all these are covered by these greeny leaf structures. So let me write them here as, these are sepals, these are petals, and this one is androecium, and this portion is gynoecium. So these 3 portions, especially petals, androecium, gynoecium, those are covered by this leafy structure. Then the structure will be arising like this. Yes, the structure will be arising like this. We will call it as a bud, moggu anta heltivi. So that means this total will cover the flower, those are inside. When the flower is blossoming, they will come outside. That means this entire portion produced from this floral meristem because of the activity of a flow region here, and that is majorly depending on the sunlight, presence of the sunlight. Why? Because that sunlight will stimulate this hormone. Right now if we consider such kind of, and suppose here if it is a leaf primordium, okay, floral meristem, or it is also called as floral primordium. From the floral primordium we got the flower, or sometimes not only one flower, we will get bunch of flowers. We will call it as a inflorescence. Inflorescence means it is the bunch of small flowers, cluster of flowers, hugucha. We can get the inflorescence from this part, or else we can get the single flower from that part, right? Suppose if it is a leaf arising here means, then we will call it as a leaf primordium. So here primordium means earlier part. The earlier part, from that portion it is a precursor, like from that portion the new part is arising. Just like in human beings, if you consider tooth primordium. So what it indicates, we are having two sets of teeth. One is a temporary teeth, another one is a permanent teeth. Temporary teeth, we will also call it as a temporary dentation. We will also call it as a milky dentation, hallu. That means when we are very young, at the time we will get very small number of teeth, 20 number of teeth. So when the teeth is arising at that time, so the jaw will be little bit hard. Still tooth has not been arised. The jaw is very hard. Inside the jaw we can see little bit white portion. That means that is the precursor of the teeth. So that precursor we will call it as a teeth primordium. Just like here, leaf primordium, leaf arising earlier part. So like that we are having floral primordium. Of course, now the flower has been arised. Now if you consider that flower, let me consider a flower. Yes. What is the structure what I have drawn here? Yes, so this is the flower. Right now it is the one flower. So you yourself imagine what flower I have drawn here right now. Yes, it is a representative flower. In your textbook also, in a 10th textbook also, you had given with this flower diagram. Yes, as a representative flower. Yes, this is the hibiscus flower. So let me imagine this is the hibiscus flower. Yes, so let me consider hibiscus flower, and along with this part let me mention these parts also. Yes, so this is the typical flower. That means we can observe the many parts very distinctly in this flower. It's a hibiscus flower I have drawn right now. So if you consider the labelings of the flower, this is the stigma, and next this one is the style, and this portion is the ovary. Stigma, style, ovary. And inside the ovary we can get some chambers. If we cut the ovary means we can see some chambers, and those chambers we will refer them as ovals. And next one we are having petals, and the next one we are having the sepals. And here sepals, petals, androecium, gynoecium, all the parts together attached downside here in the below portion, that portion we will refer it as thalamus or receptacle. And this portion is anther, and this portion is filament. Generally, in the general sense, if you observe, means these are the major parts, right? stigma, style and ovary. This portion and this portion and this portion, stigma, style, ovary, all together we will refer it as the first one, androecium, right? Next one, anther and filament, stigma, style and ovary, all together will refer them as parts of gynoecium, right? And next one, anther and filament together will refer as the parts of the androecium. And here the androecium is the male reproductive part of the flower. Why? Because that is producing the male gamete. And gynoecium, this is considered to be the female reproductive part. Why? Because that is producing the female gamete. And here other major section of the flower is petals. Petals means we will also call it as carpels. Corolla. So the petals group together we will refer it as a corolla, and sepals group together we will refer it as calyx. Calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium, all these are the four whorls of the flower. Whorls, groups, units of the flower. Out of four whorls, gynoecium and androecium are the reproductive whorls. Why? Because those are directly involved in the fertilization process, reproduction process, and these two are the non-reproductive whorls or accessory whorls of the flower. So this is how we can draw a flower diagram here, right? Here my question, today's question is that, of course, gynoecium producing the flower, female gamete, and androecium producing the male gamete. So both were in the fertilization process and forming the zygote, then embryo, then seed, helps in the formation of the new plant. So that is okay. Then what is the help of these petals? Then what is the help of sepals to the flower? What is the need of petals and sepals to the plant? And some flowers will be having colorful nature on their petals. They may be having different colors, red color, pink color, brown color, yellow color, different kinds of colors may be present in the petals. And some flowers will be white in color. That means the petals color will be white. And what is the importance of that white color petals, and what is the importance of presence of varieties of colors in the petals? In the same way, what is the use of these sepals for the flower? So this is my question for tomorrow's work. And in the next video class, let me bring with another important major concept, right? So let's have the discussion on another concept on. Yes, thank you.